When I was 7 years old, I had the most beautiful tree in my backyard. It was big, and I'd go there when I was happy, when I was sad, when I was celebrating something. And one day, I realized that there was a big hole in the center of the trunk that led to the bottom. That same night, I had the most beautiful dream. I dreamt that my tree was a magical candy tree. When I woke up, I ran to the tree as fast as I could. I put hard candy in the center of the tree, and then whenever I wanted, I would tap on the tree, and candy would fall into my little 7-year-old hands. I realized at that moment that I had made my own dream come true, and that I had made the impossible possible. My brother David loved making dreams and wishes come true, but mainly for others. You could either find him tutoring children in a school or at the local soup kitchen. I would say to him all the time, "David, what is your dream? What do you wish for?" And he said, "I want to go to India." I said, "What's stopping you?" And he said, "I'll go when I finish my master's degree." David was 28 years old, and I was 31 while he was doing his master's degree, when he received notice from the doctors that he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. Exactly 1 year and 4 months later, David died. In David's memory, my husband Avi and I started the Make-A-Wish Foundation, granting wishes to children with critical illnesses in Israel. Since our inception, we have granted 5,300 wishes. Wishes that are changing lives. The thousands of people that we have touched are not just the children, it's their parents, their caregivers, and even their communities. Today, I would like to take you with me on a journey through the wish stories of these very courageous children, of how to capture your one true wish, what the essence of a dream is, how to make the impossible possible, and how to trust the spark in your eyes, and finally, how to turn sorrow into joy. When we began, the doctors and the social workers said, "How can you go into the hospital and ask these children their greatest wish? It's a very dangerous proposition. What if you can't make the wish come true? They are in the most vulnerable state of their lives. We don't think it's a good idea." But we told them we knew that on the other side of the world, magic was happening. When a wish was coming true for a child, their one true wish, they were receiving great hope, strength, and joy to fight their illness. And that is how we knew. One of our first wishes was of a boy named Yoni Dotan. Yoni Dotan was 16 at the time. And when we went to him and asked him what his greatest wish was, without hesitation, he said, "I want to meet the President of the United States, Bill Clinton." We thought that was great. I said, "Yoni, what gift will you bring the President?" And he said, "I am clueless. I have no idea." And I said, "Let's do something funny and creative. How about you give him a T-shirt that says, 'I met Yoni Dotan.'" We laughed and he loved it, but so did the President. Fast forward 2 weeks later, in the Oval Office, when he handed that shirt to President Clinton, he loved it. His 7 minutes that was allotted to him turned into 20. And he said, "Mr. President, I have one more wish. Will you wear the T-shirt?" And the President said, "You have my word." 2 weeks later, in the Washington Post, Herald Tribune, and USA Today, the President was actually wearing the shirt that said, "I met Yoni Dotan." And the caption underneath read, "Who is Yoni Dotan?" And under that it said, "A wish child from Make-A-Wish Israel." This wish gave us recognition, trust, and validity. It put us on the map. Because in the beginning, the doctors and social workers were extremely worried that we would interview and ask children what their greatest wish was, especially when they were sick. I'd like to fast forward thousands of wishes later. I kept hearing that a wish had enormous impact on the children's lives from so many of the children and their families. But I had to be sure. I wanted to do research. So I asked a dear friend, Dr. Tal Ben-Shachar, if he would. And he said, absolutely. And together with Professor Anat Shoshani, they did scientific research on the impact of a wish. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Tal Ben-Shachar.
You know, I attended a few meetings of Make-A-Wish, and I was really struck by the kind of work that they did. And I asked Denise, so how can we help at Meitiv Center? And she said, I want to do research. And when she first said that, I must say that my team and I, we were concerned. We were concerned that what if the research shows that it doesn't work, or doesn't work as well as they think? And yet they wanted to go ahead, which takes courage and, of course, a great deal of honesty and integrity. So we did the research, and we were amazed. What we did was we took over 60 kids, half of them in the control group, the other half were waiting for their wish, and we looked at physiological as well as psychological measures. And on every variable, every parameter, we saw improvement. And when we looked at the research, at the results, we asked ourselves, why? How does it work so well? And the answer, we believe, lies in the fact that participants exercise a different muscle than the one they're used to. They exercise the muscle of impossibility. Because to see Messi or to meet Clinton, or for some kids to get an iPhone, that's in the realm of the impossible. And yet, when they actually get that, when they fulfill that wish, it becomes possible. Now, once they have turned one impossibility into a possibility, why not do it elsewhere? Why not also do it when it comes to the medical condition that they are treating? Looking at this research, it makes me reconnect to why I do what I do. This particular project, the Make-A-Wish approach, is changing lives.
This research was published in medical journals, translated into 7 languages, and is used all over the world. It was remarkable for Make-A-Wish. So how do we capture a wish? Well, we get to know the child as well as we can. We ask them what their favorite food is, their favorite color, what movies and TV shows they like, what music do they listen to, whatever we can to really get to know who they are. And then we say, if money was no issue, what would you want to buy? And for the little ones, if you had a magic carpet, where would you fly? And then my favorite question of all, what was the best day of your life? Because we want to make it better. And then we ask them 4 questions. What I would like to do today is do this with all of you. I would like to ask you these questions in order for you to capture your own wishes. If you could be anything in the world, who would you want to be, even for a day? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? If you could have anything, material, what would that be? And if you could meet anyone, who would you want to meet? These are the 4 questions that are asked all the time with the Make-A-Wish children. The next challenge for us was to find out if this was truly their wish. And the reason I say that is because there were children that said to us, I would like a jacuzzi in my backyard, or I would like a washing machine. We looked at them and we saw there was no spark in their eyes. And then there was a child that said, I want to be a princess. And then the father said, last night we discussed perhaps all going together to Las Vegas, but we did not see the spark in their eyes. We know that when a child says their one true wish, their eyes sparkle. And that is exactly how we knew that Israel's wish to have an air conditioning was his true wish. Because not only did he want an air conditioning, he explained to us why. He said that when he comes home from chemotherapy and his treatments, the only relief he has is putting his head on the cold tiles to get relief. Now, what happens if there is a spark, but the wish is impossible? Then what do? We get as close to the wish as possible. essence of a wish. So when Dan said he wanted to be an astronaut and go to the moon, we sent him to the Space Center in Houston. We fit him in a uniform. He was in the simulator, and then he had lunch with astronauts. Dan said this was the best day of his life. And Emily? Emily was too sick to go to Paris. Her dream was to go to Paris and to cook with pastry chefs. So what we did was we brought Paris to her. We had macaroon chefs come to her home and teach her how to make macaroons. And then a caricature artist make caricatures of her and her family while French music was playing in the background. So I ask you, is it dangerous for us to dream? I think the exact opposite. Perhaps it's much more dangerous for us not to dream. Because if we learn today that the essence of the dream is just as powerful as the dream itself, then we should all dream. Because ultimately, when we dream, we are looking for the feeling the dream will give us, and that is happiness. Today, after granting over 5,000 wishes, what I know for sure is that giving is the greatest gift in the world. That we all have the muscle of impossibility, like Tal said. That each of us can find our greatest dream through the 4 Make-A-Wish categories. That the essence of the dream can also bring you great joy. And that we absolutely do not have all the time in the world. A few years ago, I was asked to speak at a conference in India, and I was thrilled. I packed my brother's shirt in my suitcase. When I stood up to speak, instead of wearing a blazer, I wore his shirt. I felt his essence, completely felt his essence in every bone of my body. And I almost heard him whisper to me, "Sis, we did good. We made so many wishes come true." If I can leave you with one thing today, I'd like you all to remember that we were born to fulfill our dreams. So don't wait another day to fulfill yours. Thank you.